The brochure stated, "A holiday in Spain at a luxury villa for two." But there had been no mention of the visitor who wished to share the couple's food and accommodation, and he certainly wasn't there for sun and relaxation. It was September 1980, when Daniel and Isabel arrived at the villa in their open-top MG sports car. By now, it was late evening, completely dark, and the car's headlights brushed across the white stone walls of their idyllic house in the country as their car swung into the driveway area. They had travelled a long way, and their blood-red MG had gathered a considerable layer of dust on the journey, and so had their suitcases, which were strapped to the boot rack at the back. They were clearly well-to-do, an attractive couple in their mid-40s. They eased themselves out of the small car, legs stiffened by the journey, and brushed themselves down. Daniel was easily 6'2", with a strong athletic build and a shock of dark brown hair which he slicked back. He wore a dark velvet sports jacket, a check shirt with a stylish cravat, and his thick trouser belt tightly wrapped around his beige chinos, which perfectly complemented his polished leather shoes. Isabel looked elegant in her dark blue skirt and sapphire blue open-neck blouse. Her shortish red hair was perfectly trimmed, and her eyes gleamed in the darkness. Daniel banged the bonnet of the MG with his strong hands. "Well done," he loudly declares, congratulating the car for getting them both there safely. "I hope there's an iron," Isabel queries, coquettishly, in her middle-class voice of refinement. "A bath and a good night's rest," Daniel bellows across the courtyard, with his deep and confident voice resonating off the villa walls. Outside the villa, they both stand next to their car while the crickets chirp away in the distance, in the still night air. "Lovely," says Isabel, head back, sensing the cool air. "Jasmine," Daniel declares enthusiastically. "We're in Katana," Isabel corrects. "It's tobacco plants." "Let me introduce you to the grapevine, at last," Daniel announces with a sweeping gesture. Isabel plucks a grape straight off the nearby hanging vine and takes a bite. Her lips curl down, and she involuntarily screws up her attractive face at the sour taste. She stares at the bitten grape in her hand. "I told you that I was flustered when that policeman blew his whistle at me," she says. "That cost us another 30 miles at 90p a gallon," Daniel accuses her with good nature. "Here's the keys." Isabel dangles them in front of him. "Come on, let's get inside." Daniel unlocks the villa front door, and they both walk in. Isabel carries a lightweight straw holder with her. Moving through the front door, they switch the internal lights on. They're both now standing in a large tiled floor kitchen with rustic tables and old-style presses and surfaces. "The kitchen," Daniel declares, hands on hips while he struts around casually taking in their rented accommodation. "Converted farmhouse circa 1920. Ernest Hemingway is supposed to have worked at that window," he drones on in his strident voice, slightly questioning, as if he's quoting from the brochure as he scans around. Meanwhile, Isabel is transferring the contents of her straw bag onto a big wooden table and looking over her shoulder back at him approvingly. She appears to be enjoying her man's presentational patter. All part of the experience, the adventure. She giggles a bit, and he joins in with a self-satisfied look on his strong-jawed face. His controlled smile makes him look handsome. Her wide grin lights up her face and she becomes quite glamorous with her white and even teeth. And then her smile momentarily disappears and is replaced by a mock frown. With a sniff, she says, "A bit damp, isn't it?" with that screwed-up, disapproving face again. "All romantic," he replies, while caressing her shoulders from behind. He must be about 6 inches taller than her anyway. He gets rewarded with a wide-eyed smile, a smile of class and refinement. While Isabel is still unpacking her bag, they both notice a notepad on the table. Daniel picks it up and reads out loud the handwritten message. "Welcome. We hope you enjoy your stay." Daniel looks around and says, "I should hope so, the money we are paying." The note continues. "Mercedes, a local girl, comes in every morning at 10, or approximately 10. "What constitutes local?" Isabel asks in her posh voice, slightly laughing. Daniel, still with his cravat and jacket on, raises his arms above his head and fully stretches. "Whacked?" Isabel asks. Yeah, tired. Drive all night, they say, but not me," Daniel slurs. Well, we're here safe and sound. That's what matters." Isabel gazes at him. 3 miles to the local village. I'll believe Mercedes when we see her." "Mercedes? Spanish name?" Daniel asks. "Who knows?" Isabel replies as she opens the door of the fridge to put some food in from her bag. Outside the villa, out of the darkness, a portly and short man appears in the lit forecourt and walks quickly and directly up to the louver wooden shutters at the side of the building and tampers with the latch. Inside, the now relaxed couple are wandering around arm in arm, exploring the other rooms of the property, entirely unaware of the mysterious man outside who's wandering around. As they both stroll around the inside of the villa, they seem impressed by the big central fireplace in the living room area. Although Isabel points out a missing light bulb and dusty surfaces. "Cool reception," Daniel says, only half-jokingly. Daniel picks up an ashtray to closely examine the cigarette stubs it contains. Isabel notices the wooden window shutters and comments that they should keep out any mosquitoes. And now they're in the bedroom with its cosy and authentic old-style solid furniture. Daniel releases his full weight and flops backwards onto the bed, making it creak under the strain. His head is just about touching the wrought iron headboard, while his steel-shoed feet are falling off the bottom. He stretches his arms out wide and reveals a thick and ornate gold bracelet on his left wrist. Isabel nears the side of the bed, open-bloused. She leans over Daniel, showing off her hourglass figure. And then she sits on the edge, leaning over him. She kisses him on the forehead. He strokes her cheek gently. Daniel suddenly leaps up and quickly moves to the window and grabs the shutters and rattles them, nearly taking their hinges off. Standing by the shuttered window, which he's now swung open, Daniel says with a smile, "Listen, you won't hear that in West Bridgeford." "Echoes of 1,000 seashells," Isabel politely responds in her polished accent as she sits on the bed. "Oh, don't make me laugh." His grin widens as he stands next to the window. There is silence in the outside darkness, with just the wind whispering in the trees, in a slight breeze. After his very short rest on the bed, Daniel seems to have found a new lease of energy. "Hey, should I unpack the car?" he asks, but it isn't really a choice he's giving her, more in a manner that he's informing her of his next action. "Yes, go on. I'll make up the bed," Isabel replies somewhat wistfully, looking away from him, lost in her thoughts. She looks at him directly. 14 whole days. Maybe more. Standing at the open bedroom door, Daniel points at her commandingly, with a knowing look in his eyes. Maybe. He has a "we'll see how we get on" expression. She looks thoughtful again, head down a bit, making no eye contact with him. Outside the villa, a heavy-set man with closely cropped light grey hair, wearing a scruffy sky blue t-shirt, is fiddling with the car keys which have been left in the ignition of the MG. Daniel is walking out of the front door into the forecourt, flicking back his smooth, dark brown hair. The grey-haired mystery man ducks down sharply when he spots Daniel exiting the doorway. Daniel pauses just outside the open door and grabs a grape off of a close-by vine. He bites it. His face immediately turns sour to match the taste he's experiencing. Not to worry, he shrugs. Daniel then quietly hums to himself in a relaxed way as he makes the few steps towards the car. He stretches his long arms down into the open-top vehicle and starts to gather some things from the back seat to bring inside. Meanwhile, stocky grey-haired man is hiding behind a nearby bush, unseen, and he's closely monitoring Daniel's every move. In the bedroom, Isabel is singing a tune to herself pleasantly, while dutifully making up the bed. On the wall behind her, next to the window, is a gold-framed picture of the distorted face of a rather serious-looking man in a brown border mount, Van Gogh style, positioned just above a dark oak bedside cabinet and mirror. Both are lit softly by a floral-patterned white table lamp with a plain frilled white cotton shade. The light oak shutters of the window have a white net overhang and thin net curtains, which are swished to the left side of the window frame. Daniel appears from behind the shutters. He pulls them open from the outside and hands through their suitcases which he's unstrapped from the car. "Come on, Daniel," Isabel hurries him. "We have to shut the window. The midges are biting." She enunciates her words and pronounces biting to make it sound like biting. Her educated elocution gives her an air of authority, as she stands one hand on hip letting the breeze caress her flame-red hair. Daniel responds to this by speeding up his gait. "Here we are, love. Shove 'em over there, we'll unpack them later." Daniel quickens his step back and forth from the car, and this activity, under the direction of Isabel, seems to bring out his northern accent a bit. Or maybe he's just bushed. Isabel grabs a case through the window, puts it down inside, and then moves swiftly back over. She deftly closes the glass and turns the latch to lock the panels. She spins round quickly and gracefully and heads out of the bedroom. Outside, Daniel is removing the elasticated hooks from the remaining case strapped on the car. Isabel is now in the bathroom arranging their toiletries. She suddenly stops moving and stares at the wash-hand basin. "Daniel," she says, with concern in her voice. "Yeah?" he replies gruffly as he walks into the bathroom to join her. Isabel is staring at the basin and taps. "There's blood in here. Look, on the sink." They both stare at the stain, with unease in their eyes. "Oh, great. And a half-smoked fag," Daniel utters, looking appalled. "Wait till we get back. They'll hear about this, dirty bastards." Daniel looks angry, and this reflects in his tightened tone of voice. He puts his arms protectively around the shoulders of Isabel, his big hands holding her. "Don't you touch it, love." His accent is becoming stronger. "I'll sort this." He gently sweeps her away from the blood and out of the door of the bathroom. "I'll get you some tissues," Isabel offers. Daniel has a mean look on his face as he scans around the bathroom. He leans forward and touches the blood on the rim of the sink with his fingers. "Luxury villa," he mutters, with contempt. He walks over to the bathroom window, looks at it closely, and realises the window is not that secure or strong. One of the panes is smashed, and there is broken glass on the tiled floor. "Lonely villa. We're sitting ducks," he mutters under his breath. He gets some tissue paper and thoroughly wipes the blood from the sink rim and flushes it down the toilet. She comes back again, this time prepared with a brush and pan set. She squats down and begins sweeping up the fragments of glass from the floor. Daniel strides out of the bathroom, pauses at the door, looks down at Isabel, who is crouched. "It's a great start, isn't it?" he says indignantly. Isabel finishes sweeping up the glass from the bathroom floor and stands upright. She looks at the window and then at the sink. Her face shows worry and her shoulders are hunched forward and tight. Daniel was back outside, bringing in some baskets and boxes from the car. Isabel meets him at the front door. "Where are the keys?" she asks him, sounding a bit anxious. "In the lock." He points at the door reassuringly. They are both now back inside. Isabel is very deliberately locking the door, but she has lost her composure. "Hey." Daniel tenderly strokes her chin, then places his hand softly around the back of her neck. You all right? She replies unconvincingly, with her wide eyes looking up at him. Forget it, Daniel says, in a comforting tone. He gently sweeps her away from the front door, with his arm around her waist and into the sitting room. A big belt of duty-free booze and bed, he suggests, with self-assurance. Outside, creeping around the corner of the building and into the light, is a stocky man in a scruffy blue t-shirt. He's got close-cropped silver hair, and his face looks toasted, as if he has been lying in strong sun for a week. There is a calculating look of trouble in his eyes. Inside, Daniel and Isabel are unpacking their cases in the bedroom and chit-chatting about francs and pesetas and what they might need. First thing in the morning, Isabel promises tiredly, as she folds her clothes from the case onto the bed. How far's the sea? Daniel asks, as he peers into his own case. About 40 metres, it said. How far's that? He sounds slightly irritated, or impatient, as if this is genuinely confusing him. About 40 yards, is it? Her voice trails off. She doesn't sound confident. There is a slight bit of tension as Daniel looks at her with a serious expression. And then they both laugh, and the tension evaporates. God, we're ignorant, he jests. When they both laugh together, their faces warm, and their rapport becomes apparent. They have just remembered they are on holiday, here to enjoy themselves. With a big smile on her face, Isabel picks up a garment with a coat hanger inside of it. Why did you bring a suit? She gently teases him. Well, I thought we might have a night out at the local cantina. He stands his ground with a twinkle in his eye, pretending to be piqued, but all the time smiling. He starts to wave his hands about and snaps his fingers. A bit of Spanish champagne, flamenco. Where's the telephone? She asks. Kitchen, he replies. At this point, the tall and strong Daniel, who can sometimes quickly switch to serious mood unexpectedly and become overbearing, still wearing his jacket and cravat, fishes out from a case a pair of her colourful floral panties. He holds them across his crotch, stretches them out with his big hands, and putting on a silly voice, raises his eyebrows and declares, I'll never get into these. Isabel cracks up. She's completely disarmed. Her head cants, and she coyly laughs out loud and flashes him a sparkling smile. What do you want a phone for? I left the number with Kate. Just in case, Isabel says. She turns around slowly, with eyes looking in the distance towards the front door. Listen. Oh, don't start. He sounds annoyed. He's cut off sharply. They hear 5 rapid and urgent-sounding loud knocks. They both freeze for a moment, with wariness in their eyes. Then, Daniel breaks into a slight smile. It'll be one of the neighbours, popping in to say ole. Daniel takes a few big steps across the bedroom, heading for the front door. Neighbours? She queries cautiously. Daniel strides forward. All right, maybe a motorist in trouble? He's just about to walk out of the bedroom when she grasps his arm and stops him. Daniel was standing in profile, framed by the open bedroom door, with his head just about touching the top of the doorframe. She looks up at him, seriously. Don't go, she says, with pleading eyes. What? He replies, with a measure of potential defiance in his manner. Her voice goes up a pitch, and she lets go of his arm and makes a short sweeping gesture with her hand. Pretend there's nobody here. She means what she says. And he picks this up, but does not show her that he is in the mood to comply to her request. Come on. Every light in the house is on, he says incredulously, while making a broad circular motion with his arm extended. He strides out to the hall. She follows and grasps him by the shoulder from behind. They hear 3 more impatient bangs on the outside door. He stops and turns around, grasps the back of her neck, lightly and reassuringly, and looks directly into her eyes with a warm grin on his face. Then he spins around and heads assertively towards the front door.